Welcome to Solar Power World Solar Speaks Live, powered by Unirac at Solar Power International 2016. I'm Kathy Zip, and today we're speaking with Erica Mackie, co-founder and CEO of Grid Alternatives. Since 2001, Grid Alternatives has been making solar practical and accessible for low-income communities that need the savings and jobs the most, but have the least access. So we're very excited to have Erica with us to tell us more. So thanks for being here, Erica.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you were chosen as one of our 2016 Innovators and Influencers, and by actually Enphase's co-founder, Raghu Belur, and he wrote a really nice piece about you in our issue. And in it, he discussed your vision and how you see solar as a kind of social force to do good and an opportunity to create jobs, especially in disadvantaged neighborhoods. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, first, thanks to Raghu and Enphase. They've been incredible partners for many, many years.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I love about solar is that it's so much more than the shiny blue panel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we all kind of look out and think, like, what are the big issues of our time?
Yep.
Facing us, this growing gap between rich and poor, the need for real good jobs, climate change. How can we take this technology and have it sort of mobilize us to lift up all of our communities? And so, what we're doing is providing access to those jobs, to job training, to being a solar consumer, to be able to sort of take back your rooftop or take back your energy, to the masses of folks out there who frequently have the most to gain from solar power, are definitely losing the most from climate change and from environmental pollution, and saying, like, this is a technology for all of us.
Right.
And so it's really not just about that panel, although one of the things that's great about the panel is that it's these very practical projects, right? That at the end of the day, there are panels that are in a community solar array across town or on your rooftop, and your cousin has a job in solar. And those are very practical things that are making real day changes in real people's lives.
Right, that's so interesting, taking those practical things and really tackling these big issues, like you said, of our time. And so that's so amazing. It's really inspiring to know that all those things can really come from solar.
Yeah, movement making, right? And what we're all trying to do together around, a clean energy future. It's hard to bridge that activist part of ourselves that want to leave a better future for our children and these really practical things. And I think, the Grid Alternatives projects are able to do that, and it sort of says, like, you and me and everybody can really participate in making change.
How wonderful. And so I know you started in California, Grid did. And then what's wonderful is you've been able to expand that to areas like Colorado, I saw New York tri-state area, mid-Atlantic region, and even overseas. So can you talk a little bit more about how Grid has gone about their expansion, and why maybe you choose certain areas to expand into in particular, and then where you're thinking about moving next?
Sure. Yeah, so as you said, we've expanded nationally over the last 12 years that we've been around, but really in the last 5 years has been our sort of push outside of California. But we had a huge, enormous growth in California before that.
Right.
And it's a combination of both organic growth, where things spread like wildfire when it's a good idea, and sort of the simple ideas are the things that spread. So, our first two families that went solar in 2004, they told their friends and their family and everybody across town, and that wasn't only in their small town in the Bay Area, it was in Fresno or in New York. And so, there's been this sort of organic growing of people who are hungry for solar power as a solution to the things that they're struggling with.
Were you able to accommodate those people and help those people in those areas
before? Well, in
before?
the first 10 years, early days, people would call us up and say, I can't pay my bills and I, live in the Bronx, we'd be like, call back in 10 years.
There you go. Okay, so just recently you've been hearing about the interest.
We got a good amount of investment from Wells Fargo to help us expand nationally, and policy is very key to good, scalable, low-income solar growth. And I think there was a certain amount of growth that we could make happen by, smart business, by bringing in philanthropy, by, our nonprofit model. But without policy, the low-income sector is frequently left behind. And so a lot of our expansion to date, and sort of the expansion that you're talking about the future, is that if we really want to, as a country, meet the energy needs in a way that sort of democratizes energy, that is going to take all sectors, and government is an important sector of that. And Obama announced recently his clean energy savings for all. I think, which is a way that the federal government is sort of saying, like, we're in this with you, and everybody sort of meet that call. And states and cities have been leading around low-income solar policy, but where Grid Alternatives will be able to serve low-income families will continue to line up where states are pushing good low-income solar policy. And I think we've come a long way from even 4 years ago when at SPI the conversation, now there's a ton of policy conversations, and people are asking themselves, how are all of our constituents going to be able to benefit, not just like barrel forward and get whoever's on board.
Right. It is a big thing to hear, from our government, from our president, that they are supporting this moving forward. And so let's talk about policy a little bit more. Like I said, I know that Grid and its partners are here at the show actually doing some sessions on exploring the issues with low-income solar policy. And so maybe you can give us a brief overview of some of the opportunities and challenges to unlocking the low-income access to solar, and why Grid calls this I like it how this was worded, a mission-critical move to our industry's long-term success.
Yeah. Well, I think there's both the industry and the answer to your question about the industry, and also the world and the answer for the world. I think we do have to look at a justice framework in terms of it is the right thing for all of our constituents to be able to have access to clean power, that they can produce cleanly, that can be more affordable, that can employ themselves and their neighbors. So I think downstream from traditional power generation lives many low-income communities, and from that perspective, our communities deserve to have solar power. For our industry, and I'm very much a part of the solar industry, it is absolutely critical that we grapple with how are we going to, in the next 12 years or 20 years, really make mainstream the technology and the solutions that we are working every day to do. And if we don't engage with grassroots community organizers and community groups and housing groups and justice groups, it's an incredible missed opportunity, but it also will be to our detriment, because you can believe that folks who don't want solar or don't care are going to continue to engage with those groups. And let's not let the communities we care about be this wedge into solar. So it is really critical that we make sure that we are reaching out, whoever that we is, right? That our table either relocates or invites other people in, and that we make this a conversation that is not just about, how do we get the most solar out there the fastest? That's very important. And it's also about the how we get there and the who and with whom.
Exactly, who is able to take advantage and who it can help, and all those other bigger, broader issues like you mentioned in the beginning. So I know we kind of touched on this. There's been a lot of talk about state policy and community solar in the industry. And I know Grid is also holding sessions at the show on each of these topics. So What's unique about state policy and the role of community solar when it comes to grids, consumer demographic, and in particular to those lower income potential solar customers?
I think the answer to both the technology and the policy question is a both and, right? Which is, there's a lot of different ways of deployment, and community solar can be such an excellent way to reach, a demographic that might have a shady roof, that, might not own a home, that might be a renter, that, might live in the projects, or might live, in a mobile home in, rural somewhere. And so I think, but community solar alone won't solve that problem.
Right.
But it can be such an impressive technical force. So I think we need to, think about single family. We need to think about multifamily. We need to think about community solar. We need to think about, utilities and how utilities are already thinking about their low-income customers, and how are utilities going to lead in the low-income space? How is the solar industry going to lead? How are we going to work together? And I think that's the conversations that's starting to happen. That it's not just about one thing or the other thing. It's about how do we really intersect all of these forces and have a lot of different options for a lot of different people.
Right. That's great to hear that utilities are thinking about that, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of interesting different players in these sessions that will be happening throughout the show, and so lots of other good conversations happening there, so make sure that everyone checks that out as well. But that wraps up this edition of Solar Speaks Live at Solar Power International 2016, and I do want to thank Erica for being here with us. It was very interesting to hear everything. You're so passionate about what you do, so thank you for sharing that with us. And be sure to stop by throughout the show to see more interviews with solar experts. And thank you so much, everyone.